Yes, yes, this is Mr. Controversy, and this is the infamous three-point conversion station. Keep it locked.
From coast to coast, representing all of the Dog Pound, this is the BrownsTown podcast, powered by the three-point conversion. I'm Eric, and I'm flying solo today. LA is currently in Canton on assignment for the Hall of Fame. Yeah, how awesome is that? He's right now chilling with Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, and everybody that got into the Hall of Fame. I hope he gets some great interviews, and you know what? Who knows? Maybe he'll bump into a Browns legend or two. I remember when we were in, I believe it was Canton at the time, it may have been Cleveland, bumping into Joe DeLamalore, who, for those who don't know, was an excellent offensive lineman, currently in the Hall of Fame, stand-up guy, and you know what? He was there for the Hall of Fame weekend, as when we were there, they were just getting ready to start all the festivities, so it was very cool. Even my buddy Timmy, who was with us, got a selfie with the guy. So if you haven't gotten the chance to check out Hall of Fame weekend, go check it out. And you know what? Check out the Hall of Fame. It is really worth taking a look at. So much history, so many cool artifacts from the games, past and present, and even a look into the future when you ultimately get down to it. Well, here's what the plan is for the next few weeks. Just want to lay it out there just so that way we have something going forward. Last week, we took the week off just because we had a failure to communicate and we couldn't get a time scheduled. And, well, it was hard to do in the first place. So the plan is this week, I'm flying solo. Next week, we hope to reconvene and get back together so that way we can give you the best that this BrownsTown podcast can possibly offer. And then in about 2 weeks, I believe LA is going to fly solo, as I'll be in Vegas losing money, losing sleep, and losing brain cells. So it should be interesting. I can't wait to hear what he's got cooking. Do you smell what the LA is cooking? And then in about 3 weeks, we should be back to normal status. So stay tuned, folks. We got a little bit to get to today. Practices are underway. An interesting story out of Columbus and somebody trying to relay it to the Browns. So we'll have to go into that a little bit. And, of course, we'll have our main event. So stay tuned. This is the BrownsTown podcast, powered by the three-point conversion.
Hey, I'm Diana Taurasi from the Phoenix Mercury, and you're listening to the 3-Point Conversion Radio.
So we start this week off with the 8th day of training camp going on yesterday, and Baker Mayfield has finally thrown an interception. It took 8 days of practice, but he threw an interception in an interesting way. So what happened was Myles Garrett put pressure on Baker as part of a 2-minute drill. The ball was thrown. It was tipped at the line by Jamie Meter and then intercepted by Jamie Collins. Now, that sounds like something that could happen, and it sounds like one of the problems that people had with Baker initially. He's going to have balls tipped at the line. Well, I hate to break it to those that don't really care for Baker, that don't like the fact that he's a little bit smaller than what other people were expecting, like Sam Darnold or Josh Allen, but it happens to the best quarterbacks. We've seen Tom Brady have balls batted down at the line. We've seen balls tipped from Brady. We've seen balls tipped from Aaron Rodgers, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL right now. So what am I getting at here? What I'm getting at is, one, it's practice, and two, it happens to every quarterback. It happens to the best of them. It happened to Peyton Manning. It happened to Tom Brady, to Aaron Rodgers, to Brett Favre. You can go back as far as you want, and I can guarantee you that there's been at least a couple instances in the greatest careers of all time where a ball was tipped or batted at the line because of pressure and then intercepted. But let that sink in. 8 days it took Baker Mayfield in practice to throw an interception. Meanwhile, you're getting word that Josh Allen didn't look fantastic in camp. Like, that he's thrown quite a few interceptions. You're getting word that Sam Darnold, right after he signed that massive contract, went out onto the field, and guess what? He was picked off. It happens. But, the fact that it took 8 days, and not just 8 days, here's a crazy thing as well. Mayfield actually hit Jeff Janis prior for an opening touchdown drive during practice. Now, this is what I'm saying. This is a kid that could change the locker room completely. We've heard all the stories right now about how Baker has these issues that were not resolved. Do you mean like the DUI video? Because he's gone on record and said that he made it worse for himself because he wasn't in trouble. So if that bothers you so much that you're saying, oh, we should have went with Josh Allen, consider what just happened with Josh Allen with the tweet thing. It's not a big deal. Not at all. I mean, come on. You have to realize with everything coming out nowadays, it's not a big deal. But Allen, from all indications and all stuff that I've been reading, has had some disappointments in practice. Sam Darnold, he's just joining practice after missing 2 or 3 days. Jet fans are already annoyed about it, but what can you do? But probably the biggest thing about all of this is that people were questioning his, maturity. And it's funny because they want to say that because he grabbed a certain area, that because he planted the flag, he's immature. Yet he's handled himself better than most people. He's handled himself better than some of the people Browns have drafted in the past few years. I mean, think about it. We had the whole Deshaun Kaiser beard thing really come up last year. We had the Johnny Manziel string of incidents. It happens. It's understandable. But you know what? The fact that Baker's taking responsibility, handling the limelight nearly perfectly, it's something that Cleveland should be excited for. And yet, there's still fans out there saying that we took the wrong quarterback because he's a punk. Yet, these same people wanted Josh Rosen because he's saying that if Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl, he's going to have to go out there and win 8. Let that sink in. If Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl and gets to 7, he's going to have to go out there and win an 8th. If you ask me, that's more of a punk move. That's more of a move that nobody wants to hear. It's a D-bag move, for lack of a better word. So, Baker, from all accounts, and even if you watch video, if you go back and talk to people that were at camp, they have been thoroughly impressed. I'm not saying start him right away. I'm just saying keep an eye on this guy. And if you're going to go ahead and just say, well, he threw a pick right now, well, it's camp. They're going to throw interceptions. The fact that it took 8 days is what amazes me personally. So I'm just going to leave it at that. It's interesting. It's going to be something to watch in the next few weeks, especially that we are now within a week of the first game. Let that sink in. This upcoming Thursday is the first game for the Browns. It's the first time we're going to see Baker Mayfield in a jersey. He'll be going against the Giants, who they're having some interesting stories as well with the whole Janoris Jenkins thing with everything that's going on in New York. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But for right now, let's take a look and see what Baker does this week now that we finally have a game on the horizon. This is the BrownsTown Podcast, powered by the 3-point conversion.
Hey, this is Brittany Griner from the Phoenix Mercury, and you listen to the 3-point conversion.
So, the sports world has been rocked by the great state of Ohio. I'm not talking about LeBron James coming back and doing all the stuff for the school. That was awesome, and it's great to see. I'm not talking about how the Cleveland Indians are rocking and a-rolling and looking like a playoff team right now. That's a given at this point. And I'm also not talking about how the Cleveland Browns have looked phenomenal. Really, they have looked amazing. But no, it's coming from college sports. And it's coming from Columbus. Of course, I'm talking about the Urban Meyer situation, the potential cover-up, if you will. Now, I'm not going to speculate on if it happened or not. Sports fans are already doing that. I even wrote an article about, is it time for Urban Meyer to go? And it was commented on by a few people. I'd like to thank those that did comment on the story, and it's really cool. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's called, Is It Time for Urban to Go? It's on the 3-point conversion website. It's a nice little read because it goes into what's happened in the career of Urban Meyer to this point. And you know what? Why not? It's something that any Ohio State fan could find interesting. It's something that any college football fan could find interesting, really. But I digress. There was a comment on there that I read. The guy loved the article, but the first comment that came out of his mouth, Browns should get on the horn and try to get Urban Meyer. My question to you is, why? Look, I can understand his winning ways. I can understand why someone would be attracted to them as a Browns fan. It's not hard to see. But there's an issue that comes with it, and that is controversy has found its way around this guy. I mean, just think of some of the stuff that's happened. Brandon Spikes gouging a guy's out after a play on defense and only getting suspended for half a game. It got turned into a game, but it was later discovered he was going to miss a week anyways because he had an injury. The whole Cam Newton situation where he cheated 3 times academically. I'm not even going to talk about the whole situation with buying a stolen laptop because really that's a story that should be a non-story. And, well, if he bought a stolen laptop, how did he know it was stolen? That's just it. And then, of course, you have the Aaron Hernandez stuff. I'm not just talking about the Odin Lloyd murder. I'm talking about the fact that he was involved with a shooting while in college. Nobody died. Somebody now has permanent seizures because of it, but there wasn't much done because of it. You're talking about the bar fight as well that he got into. This is a guy that has had controversy surrounding him the entire time. You're also talking about a guy that covered this story up, if it is true. Not just once, but he kind of did it a second time when charges were not pressed back in 2008 because his wife at the time was pregnant. So you have this guy, he's covering up this type of stuff. Is it really the type of guy you want to bring into Cleveland? The NFL is already having a very hard time with its image just because of domestic cases. And you know what? If that's the case, then do you really want to bring this guy in who has had these issues? Personally, I'd say no. But it's also something else you have to look at. Urban Meyer runs a spread offense. This is what I'm going to get down to right now, the football aspect. He runs a spread offense, which in today's NFL is hard to do. I mean, a lot of people are going to probably be listening to this right now and saying, but Pete Carroll does it. Pete Carroll does a bunch of very spread-based offenses where you run the option, where you pitch it, where you throw it almost all the time in the shotgun. And to that I say, yeah, but at the same time, he does do some packages where he is under center. You don't see Ohio State go under center all that often. You didn't see Florida go under center all that often. You can't play college ball in the NFL. Sure, you can do the option. Cam Newton does it. But keep in mind, they built a good team around him to do so. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is good in an option offense. Cam Newton is good in an option offense. They have the good enough offensive line. This is a crazy thing to talk about. And, you know, my thing is this. If you want to get Urban Meyer, you're introducing this guy to an NFL system that may not work. It probably won't work. Pete Carroll, if you remember, failed his first time around as a head coach in the NFL. He failed so badly that he ended up going to USC, winning a bunch of championships, got surrounded in controversy, left, went to the NFL, and now he took his skills that he reworked in college and brought it to the NFL. Urban Meyer hasn't had that problem yet. So what I'm getting at is, if you really think Urban Meyer is a better idea than Hugh Jackson, I'm going to call you a little nuts just because Hugh Jackson has been working in offensive schemes for a while in the NFL. I understand that this 1 win in 2 years thing is a big deal, but if you're going to replace him with somebody who's had the NFL experience. I mean, Jim Mora. If you want to really bring him aboard, I don't think he's going to leave. That would be an idea. If you really want to bring up someone controversial, try to get Sarkisian in. The fact of the matter is, what's going to happen is if you replace Jackson, you need someone that's been at this level. That's why. Just think about some of the teams that have done this stuff. Just think about it. Vance Joseph was an offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. That's why he's in Denver. People in Denver may hate him, but you know what? He actually does have a decent offense at least. Sean McVay. Look at that. I mean, him and McDermott have just gone out and just crushed it on offense after being these overlooked offensive coordinators. That's how you do it. If Hugh Jackson's going to be gone, then bring in a Jim Bob Cooter. Bring in somebody that will be able to run an offense professionally. Probably the biggest one is they might have their successor already in place in Todd Haley, which is funny to me just because Todd Haley was fired by John Dorsey. So what I'm getting at is, if you're going to really bring up Hugh Jackson and say, oh, well, he's not that great, maybe we should bring in the Ohio State coach, get that thought out of your mind. It would not be that great of an idea. And you know what? I will sit back here. I will even talk about it with LA if he wants to bring it up next week. But you know what? The fact of the matter is this. If you're going to go out and talk about how you think Urban Meyer can change the culture of the Browns, he probably could, but is it necessarily in the way that you want? I honestly don't think so, but that's beside the point. I'm sure that this will come up again. I'm sure people that are reading articles similar to mine are probably sitting there thinking, Urban Meyer, he could change the Browns. But you know what? I disagree. I just don't want him anywhere near Cleveland, okay? This is the BrownsTown Podcast. It's brought to you by and powered by the 3-Point Conversion. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, check out some of the other podcasts. It's something you should definitely do. We'll be right back.
This is Leilani Mitchell from the Phoenix Mercury, and you're listening to the 3-Point Conversion.
All right, welcome back to the BrownsTown podcast. We have to talk about this. I mean, I'm sure LA and I are going to get into it over the next few weeks, but this whole Josh Gordon thing is really starting to get under my skin. And it's not because I think that Josh Gordon should be cut. No, it's the opposite. I think Josh Gordon is getting too much crud from our own fans. I mean, every time I go on, not just the BrownsTown Facebook group, but Browns Buzz, Browns Zone, the number one true fans of the Cleveland Browns, Dogbone, all of them, I always see at least 3 comments saying, yeah, he's not with the team. He's in Florida, training by himself. He really should be cut. It's just time to let go of him. Are you nuts? Really? Are you completely bonkers? Are you out of your head for this? Look, I can understand if something came out, but as of right now, there's no failed test. He's down there for his health and to deal with anxiety as far as we know. I've said this before. I honestly do think Josh does have anxiety. And you know what? When you put cameras down there, when you have cameras all over the place, on a premium network like HBO nonetheless, where you're asking about his personal life, where you see every missed ball, that's going to drive somebody to the brink, if you will. It's going to drive somebody mad. It's going to do a lot of damage long term. So I'll be honest with you, I support him being down in Florida. As long as he doesn't do anything stupid, as long as he's not smoking weed, as long as he's not drinking, as long as he's staying sober, controlling himself, and putting in work at least, I have no problem with it. This was the biggest issue with Hard Knocks, in my opinion. If you really want to get down to it, I think it's a great thing for the Browns. It's cool for the fans just because I think the Browns are showing their true personalities. The last few years, we haven't seen personality. It's finally nice to see the Browns talking it up. It's finally great to see the Browns letting them be themselves. It's something that the NFL definitely should see. And you know what? This could also be good because it'll show in video form for all to see if Hugh Jackson is really as bad of a coach as they say, or if he's actually underrated because they haven't been able to put the talent around him. I mean, that's beside the point, though. The Josh Gordon thing. I got off track. I apologize. The whole Josh Gordon thing, and this is what drives me up a freaking wall about this whole thing. Fans want to let him go when he's still on a rookie contract. Yeah, you didn't think about that, did you? He's on a rookie contract, and we've been retaining him for so long that if you want to give him another contract, then he'll be making bank. He'll be doing the Johnny Manziel money sign. He'll have the money phone out. But you know what? We don't want that right now. What we want to see is Josh Gordon doing well. If you cut him, you know that he'll go to someplace like a New England, like a Pittsburgh. Or, in the worst case scenario, he'll be going to Baltimore. So, do you really want to run that risk? Hold on to him. We're not paying that much money for him. And you know what? If he comes back and lights it up, then we can pay the guy and you have the best receiving core. From everything I've been hearing, Gordon has been on the phone with Higgins a couple times, and Rashard Higgins has gone out and said that Josh is in good spirits, he's doing well, and he might be ready to go for the first game that they need him. So that's great to hear. When you pair that with Jarvis Landry, who's been doing Odell Beckham on the field type of stuff. I'm not talking about he's going and proposing the nets after knocking down nets and punching and all that stuff. I'm talking about that he's going out and making these circus catches, and he's been just terrorizing the defense. That is something really good to hear. That's what you want to hear as a Browns fan, in fact. I've been hearing Antonio Callaway has looked like the man. Rashard Higgins has looked as good, if not better, than the game he had in Pittsburgh. You know? And the great thing about that is he's building chemistry with both Tyrod Taylor and Baker Mayfield. So, you really want to tear down someone that's essentially the cornerstone of this Browns wide receiving core just because he might have done something, but you have no proof of it, that there is no proof of it, that there's no suspension for, that there's no incident for? And you know what? I just want to also bring this up. The people saying that, he probably did fail a drug test, but they want to reveal it during the show. Are you crazy? Why would anybody do that? Really? I'm not buying this whole thing one bit. If you really think that's what's going to happen, you're crazy. If you really think that the Browns are keeping this hush-hush when right now they're a media circus, then I'm just going to call you out and say that you are crazy. I mean, come on. Josh Gordon is not going anywhere. The only way he goes somewhere is if he fails a test within the next few weeks, which in Miami, is it possible? Absolutely, but I'm not going to sit here and speculate over this whole thing. I think Josh is fine. Let's just stop with this time to cut him loose. But you know what? That's all water under the bridge. Josh will probably be back here in a couple months when the football season starts. Okay, maybe not a couple months. We're officially now just about a month away from the NFL season. Get hyped! This is the BrownsTown podcast, brought to you by the 3-Point Conversion.
Hey, I'm Diana Taurasi from the Phoenix Mercury, and you're listening to the 3-Point Conversion Radio.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for your main event. In this corner, from Nevada, Joel Bitonio. And in this corner, representing every other possibility, Greg Robinson, Sean Coleman, Austin Corbett, and every other left tackle on the Browns roster. Let's get ready to rumble! Okay, now that you know the situation, now that you know that everything that could happen in Browns camp is happening, it is being said that Joel Bitonio is going from left guard to left tackle. And you know what? I think everybody is fine. So far, we have heard so many things about how Bitonio is looking up to the part. We've heard so many great things about how Joe Bitonio is looking good. Even though it's weird to see a guard move from that spot to the tackle spot, this is actually a pretty cool thing, you know? But you know what? It does speak some volumes here. A lot of people were expecting Sean Coleman to be good. They were thinking that when they moved him back to left tackle, as he's been playing the right tackle over the past few years, that it was going to mean something. But you know what? It didn't. A lot of people thought that Greg Robinson, a former number 1 overall pick, would go out and be something special. Again, he wasn't. It's not saying that they won't make the team, but it's saying that maybe, just maybe, there's something going on in Cleveland that needed to be fixed. Who knows? Maybe this is a great move. So far, it's sounding like Joel Bitonio is looking the part, playing the part, being the part, owning the part. And you know what? That's exactly what you want to hear. That is exactly what you want to hear when you move one player from one different type of position. When you move a player from guard, that's hard enough as it is. But when you move him over to left tackle, that's great. So let's go ahead and roll with this really quick. What we could ultimately be seeing right now is a fight for the right tackle spot. Kevin Zietler, who did go down but probably will be back. J.C. Treader, who is supposedly looking better and better, but is probably going to get pushed to the limit by Austin Reeder. You have Corbett probably taking over the right and the left guard spot, and then you have Bitonio in the left tackle spot. Now, this could all be done just because they need a stopgap. I mean, I know that sounds crazy and all. It really does. But you know what? Think about it like this. Right now, some of the top players in this upcoming draft already, I mean, it's way too early to be talking about the draft, but some of the players that are scheduled to become eligible for the draft include Greg Little, an offensive tackle, David Edwards, an offensive tackle. Are you starting to notice a pattern here? Trey Adams, offensive tackle. You know, if you don't notice the pattern, there's a lot of big offensive pieces in the draft next year, including 3 tackles who the very early word is that they will be top 5 picks, top 10 picks, all of that. And you know what? If you're Cleveland and you're looking at this, you ultimately have to think about it and say, should we wait till next year? I mean, they're not going to be using the first overall pick if they get it again. They're not going to use their first round pick on a quarterback. So why go out and start looking at quarterbacks? They're probably not going to use on a wide receiver unless you're positive that Josh Gordon won't be back or Callaway busts. You're not going to go ahead and say, let's draft a wide receiver. They're not going to draft a running back. That one should probably be pretty clear because they drafted Nick Chubb in the second round, and so far, a lot of people are saying Nick Chubb is looking like probably the second best running back in the NFL right now. There's even some idea that maybe he could be number 1. We haven't heard as much about Barkley, but you know what? That's because we're in Cleveland and we're looking at Cleveland only. So this could be a stopgap, you know? Or maybe Joel Bitonio will actually become the new Joe Thomas. I'm not going to sit here and say he is because I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not looking into it. I'm looking into it and I'm seeing Joey Bosa not coming to Cleveland. You know? That's what I'm saying. I mean, Joel Bitonio could be the next great Browns left tackle, and we wouldn't even know it because we've had him at left guard these past few years. So he could become the next Joe Thomas for all we know. We could have somebody on the roster that's struggling early but ultimately shows up. Now, we're going to probably talk about this also in a couple weeks, but the whole Joe Thomas comment about how Austin Corbett is not built to play left tackle. Well, if that's the case, then let him play left guard, and you have Bitonio, who's looked very, very good. This is what I'm saying right now. If that was Plan Z, why weren't we talking about this earlier? It was speculated on. It was rumored. It was said that it could happen, but it was a long ways away. Well, that long ways away may have just reached this area. And you know what? I'm feeling fine about it. Bitonio is an NFL veteran now. He's been playing for a few years. He's not a rookie. He's not a sophomore. He just got paid. Last year, him and Kirksey got paid within days of each other. If you don't think that he can handle that responsibility, if you don't think he can handle that workload, then you obviously haven't been paying attention. The other fact is you have Joe Thomas there quite a bit now, and he's giving advice, he's teaching. This is the type of guy that you want teaching your young players, especially if they are indeed going to be playing at the NFL level. I don't know what to tell you, Browns fans. If you're going to sit here and say that Bitonio shouldn't be doing this, then you're absolutely insane. You know? We're having a great camp so far from everything going on. We'll have to wait and see what progress is made when it actually counts. But you know what? I feel fine with Joe Bitonio playing in camp right now at the left tackle spot. If he gives you a reason to doubt, then by all means, have your doubts. If he gives Hugh Jackson that doubt as well, he'll put somebody else in and give it a shot. But at this point in time, I think the move is good. I think that Bitonio does have the body. He's played the position in college. And you know what? I can already hear some Browns fans saying, well, you probably said the same thing about Cameron Irving. No, I didn't. I honestly thought that Cameron Irving was not that great. I mean, maybe it's just because I am a University of Miami fan. Maybe it's because I don't trust Florida State players until they actually do something. But you know what? Irving just didn't have the mechanics here in Cleveland. He's looked better in Kansas City, and good on him, but he just didn't fit in. So, all I'm going to say, and I'm going to leave it at this, Joe Bitonio, give the guy a chance. He's looking good. He's playing good. The only thing he needs is to go out and have that mean streak. The minute he does, it's going to change the way the Browns look at the left tackle spot. If not, you can just put him at left guard again. You could figure something out with Zietler, and then probably put Austin Corbett at right guard. The fact of the matter is, we got to let this happen. We got to let it change. And you know what? I think now is the time to experiment. It's the preseason, folks. If you don't think that it is time to experiment, then you're absolutely crazy. This is the BrownsTown Podcast, powered by the 3-Point Conversion.
This is Leilani Mitchell from the Phoenix Mercury, and you're listening to the 3-Point Conversion.
Well, that's going to do it for this solo edition of the BrownsTown Podcast. Next week, we hope to reconvene and have LA here. And you know what? We're going to probably talk into some of the better stuff that is going on. We'll probably touch into the secondary. We'll probably get into some of the stuff we talked about today, but more in depth. But you know what? It's going to be great to see LA again. It's going to be great to hear from him again. So, can't wait for that. Huge week coming up. The Browns play the Giants, and you know what? We finally get to see if this team is as good as advertised. It looks the part. It should play the part. But until that point, we have to see what happens in the preseason. Remember, the Browns went 4-0 in the preseason last year. Preseason doesn't mean that much. But you know what? It'll give us an idea of where we stand. If you don't think it will, then I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You're watching the wrong team. This is an exciting time for Browns fans, folks. If you don't think it is, then you didn't pay attention to the offseason. It's all hype, but you know what? This could be the point where the hype train stays on the rails and gets us out of the basement. Bengals fans are worried. There are some saying that the Browns have the worst receiving core and that the Bengals have the best, when in reality they only have A.J. Green. But you know what? We'll worry about that down the road. For L.A. Broadus, who is down at Canton at the Hall of Fame, I'm Eric, and we will see you next week. And remember, here we go, Brownies, here we go. Woof, woof. Cleveland, you rock.
Cleveland rocks.